We're recording. So welcome everybody to tonight's Tech Talk. This is our second time doing a round of lightning talks. So we have 5 speakers who are going to be giving short talks tonight and on a variety of different topics. This is the Tech Talk series is sponsored by the Collab Lab, and I know several of you know what that is, but maybe a couple of you don't. So the Collab Lab is a US-based nonprofit. We provide sort of project-based training for early career developers. And we don't teach coding, we teach the collaboration skills that software teams use. So we put people on small teams of 4. They work on a actual kind of a fairly real world project for about 8 weeks, pair programming and doing code reviews and kind of doing all the same things that a software team would do. So it's a lot of fun. We just kicked off. We're actually in the first week of our spring cohort, and we'll be running another one in the summer and another one in the fall. So if you happen to be an early career person, or people who are trying to break into the field, definitely spread the word. Yeah, so I want to point out a couple things on the title slide. So this talk, it's being recorded. So if you prefer, you're more than welcome to turn off your video for privacy's sake. It'll be, the link will be posted to meetup.com probably tonight. If I decide to do it tomorrow morning, it might be tomorrow morning. We'll see, but probably tonight. You can have live caption. We have live captioning enabled, which you can enable by hitting the closed caption button in the Zoom UI. It's not perfect, but it's kind of fun when it makes a mistake. So you could check that out if that's helpful. We have a code of conduct that kind of applies to everything that we do at the Collab Lab. So the link is there on the slide. It's on our website. Yeah, it kind of just kind of guides us for how we want to relate to each other. So, and then lastly, if you're feeling generous, you can consider sponsoring us. That's also on our website. We are just a tiny little nonprofit. We don't have a lot of costs, but we do have some around things like Zoom accounts and that kind of thing. So, but I will stop talking at this point. And we're going to have 5 speakers, like I said. They're each going to take around 10 minutes or so for each talk. If you have questions, feel free to put the questions in the chat, but what we're going to do is answer all the questions at the end, just to make sure we have enough time for all the speakers to kind of give their presentation. So, but at the end, we can go back and ask questions about the first one or the third one or whatever. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shajia. Shajia was a participant. She was a developer in one of our Collab Lab teams. And I'll let each of the speakers just kind of introduce themselves. So I'll stop sharing so you can take that over if you want. But yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Shajia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shajia. Let me share my screen real quick, and then, okay, everybody can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, let me start the present. Okay, so I'm Shajia. I will be talking about my journey from journalism to tech. Currently, I am working as a web developer at Pew Research Center. And with that, I'm also a freelance writer, and I write both technical and non-technical articles. Even though I'm working as a web developer at Pew Research Center, I've also written an article for them, and hopefully I will be writing more. A bit about how I came into tech from journalism. So I studied journalism in my undergrad, and I took a data journalism class in my last semester, which basically we did some basic coding with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and we created a website basically showing some sort of information. So what I decided to do was I created an interactive map using Leaflet and connected it with the San Francisco Open Data portal. It was a map. I don't have, I still have the code, but I don't have a live, like a live example to show, but it was a Leaflet interactive map, which got me really interested into programming. I remember, I think this was the only class I remember it was on Thursdays, once a week, 4 to 8, because I really, really looked forward to it. I was even sad once because because of Thanksgiving, that week was off, and I was super upset because I missed the class because the school was off. But it was in a nutshell, I really enjoyed doing it. I did HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and we were exposed to JavaScript, SQL, and PHP. So the code was provided us by the professor. But we played around with like Bootstrap. I still remember talking to one of my professors and asking him, why is it 12 for Bootstrap? Like, why is it 12? Why can't I do 4 or 3? And he told me to just play around with it and see how things go. And I did, and I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. I could do different things. I can create different things by changing the number of grids. And it was a class that I really enjoyed, but I never thought that that is something that I wanted to do. I never had this thing that you could change because I studied journalism. How can I just switch to tech? And I was talking to my brother about it once, and I told him that, hey, I did this for my class and this happened. And he told me that maybe I should look into boot camps. And that is when he told me about Udacity. And then I looked into Udacity. I enrolled into the following courses. The first one was front-end web development. And it was a beginner-friendly course. I learned again HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and JavaScript. I created a lot of different projects through that. And then after that, like the following years, I did React and full stack web development from there. I do want to say that there are pros and there are cons to it. Pros, it was a beginner friendly program, at least the front end web development was, because they teach you assuming that you know nothing about it. So in that sense, it was amazing. You also made some real world projects. That was again amazing because that is something that you could show when you're applying for jobs. And they had a mentor support. So again, if you get stuck, they would get back to you within 48 hours, if not 24 hours. So that was something, again, amazing, but it was also expensive. And I am one of the privileged people who had a support of the family. My brother paid for the Udacity course, all of the courses actually. So I had that in my, I knew that I had the support, so I was able to do it. And another thing that I will touch on later, but just wanted to hint right now is that because I didn't know anybody in the industry back then. So I didn't have anybody I could talk to about, hey, I'm thinking to do this. Or is there a better or a cheaper or a free course that I could take? So I didn't know any of those things. So I did take Udacity. It was amazing. It really helped me. But if I was to do it all over again, I know now that there are so many more cheap, affordable, and free courses out there that I can take, which have like real world projects. And the mentor support, I think if you're on Twitter or if you're on Stack Overflow, I think you got that covered. There are a lot of there's a huge tech community out there, and they're really willing to help. So that is amazing. The third step was applying for jobs. I did the course. It took me 6 months to do the front end web development course. But I did not have you did not have a professional experience to do it. This is my first resume. It looks awful, but I didn't have anything to show. My education was the nano degree program I did and the journalism. And I even had a recruiter who told me that you should not add Udacity on your resume because that will, the recruiters would not like it. And then I had some projects which are basically I did for Udacity. I just copy pasted the description they had on their website on my resume. And then at the bottom, I had journalism experience, which was just to tell them that, hey, I have something else besides coding, like I can write. But at that point, I have not written anything technical. So I just showed them that I could write. And then this is on my latest resume that I applied for. So this looks a bit better than the first one. And then the cover letter. I genuinely hate writing cover letters because I don't know how to explain things to people. But added my cover letter that I used to, for my current job. When I was looking for, when I wanted to write cover letters, I always looked for examples, real life examples of people, what they used to write, like what is a good example of a cover letter. So what worked for me was, because I do not have a technical background, I always make sure that I write, why did I switch? Now that I have 4 years of experience, if I look for a new job in future, I might not add that. But being an early developer, I think it was very important in a cover letter to write why I made that switch. So I talk about that here, and I also talk about, since it's a non-partisan fact tank, I think it was important for me to also mention that why I want to work for them. So that is something that I also talk about in that cover letter, and how my previous experience will help me help with this job. So that's something that I also talk about in cover letters. And when it comes to the technical writing part, before my current job, I was doing contract jobs. So it was not really stable. My income was not that great, and I wanted to like look for other places where I can get jobs, get paid. So I went to Upwork to do programming jobs, but the imposter syndrome is like real when it comes to things, and I realized that I might not be able to do all of those jobs. So I started thinking, what is something else that I could do? And I was like, I have a journalism background. I can use that, and I can use tech and do technical writing. Back then, I was not big on Twitter. I didn't know like technical writing. Anybody could do technical writing. I thought you have to be, you have to be probably like a senior engineer, a developer, have certain numbers of experience, some certain years of experience to be able to explain things to other people. But then I went on Upwork. I found a writing gig, which was Kite. They're a startup in San Francisco. They were looking for somebody to write about Django. I did not have that experience, but I told them that I have experience of Flask, and that I was willing to learn Django and then write an article on it. Luckily, they said that it's okay if I don't have that experience, you can write about Flask. So I wrote about Flask, and I wrote, I think, 3 articles for them. And I remember one of the editors, one of the developers over there, he emailed me after a while saying that my article was on the top, if you Google it. And that was the boost I needed. I was so happy. I was like, okay, this is something I could do. So I wrote for Nihilus, it's another startup. It was a ghostwriting project that I did for them. And then I wrote for Smashing Magazine. That's the pitch that I sent. That's the entire email I copy pasted, that I sent Rachel. She was the editor of Smashing Magazine then. And I told her, I have heard about Smashing Magazine before, and now I want to write about this particular thing. That's the entire email. She liked it. She got back to me, and then I wrote an article for them. Then I remember an editor from LogRocket contacted me saying that, hey, we read your article in Smashing Magazine. I really liked it. Would you like to write for us? And at that time, I also did not believe it. I was like, maybe it's like a phishing email. I'm not that good of a writer. I searched her on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on LogRocket, and it turns out she was a real person. And I was like, okay, sure. So I wrote articles for them. And then I remember Kelly on Collab Lab Slack posted about Twilio. So I wrote 2 articles for Twilio. And that is something that I did not think I could do it. Initially, I heard people saying that you should, in your resume, when you're as an early developer and when you're switching, you should be able to connect your background to what you're doing in tech. And I never understood how can journalism be related to tech? But I realized that I could use my writing skills in a tech. I can write, I can explain certain things that I know. One of the examples would be Chrome extension. I recently wrote an article on Chrome extension, and I did not know Chrome. I did not know how to make one. I thought that would be a good article to write. So I learned how to make one. I pitched the article to Twilio, and they liked the idea, and then I wrote the article for them. So that is what I've been doing in the last 4 years. What I've learned is apply for the in no particular order. You should apply for the job. I applied for Pew Research Center and I applied for Washington Post. I was convinced I would not get the job, but I also thought that what's the worst that could happen? I would not get the job. I mean, sure, I could make fun of myself during the process, but that's the risk I was willing to take. And I applied and I got both the jobs. And I was really happy that I applied for that job. Not even I got the job offers, but also I now know the process of that entire their job process. The second that is to find a solution to a problem and write a script, something that will help you, not only will help you solve that problem, but also that is something that you can talk about in your interviews and maybe write about it. That's what I did with my automated job search article. I realized that when I was looking for work, I would go on Twitter, I would search for keywords, something like looking for front end, and I will go through the results every night. I was doing that, and I would like contact people if I find something. So I just created a script that would automate that process, and every night, instead of going on Twitter, I would just run that script and it would give me all of the results in a CSV file. And I would just look in the CSV file and be like, okay, this is the job I want to apply to. This is the person I want to contact. And that is something that not only helped me, I also talked about in my interviews, and I also wrote an article about it. So that was something that I think is really helpful. Not every In the beginning, when people used to tell me that find a problem and find a solution to a problem, I did not. I thought every day there is no problem in the world and there's nothing that I can find a solution to. For the first 3 years, I was like, no. So I would just look at what are other people's problem, and then I would be like, okay, this is the solution. Maybe I should try doing that. So if you don't find a problem, that's okay. It will come to you. And if not, then find something that you're doing every single day and try to automate it. That's what I did. The last thing, which is really important, is to find a community. One of the reasons now that I think of, that I left journalism was I did not have friends in my journalism department. So what I was going through, I did not know there are other people who are in the exact same boat. I thought that I was doing something wrong or I cannot be a journalist. And so I was like, okay, I left that. I joined web development because I enjoyed coding, but I left that because I did not have people or like a support system within that community who were going through the same journey as I was. So I think it's important to find a community. I am not really social and like socially I can be socially awkward. So I found my community, or I do networking through writing. So if you are awkward in person like me or an introvert, you could find a community or network through your writings, or be active on Twitter. You don't have to be, it is not necessary. You don't have to interact with people, but if you're following certain people, at least you would know that they're going through what you're going through. And if you're comfortable enough, you can interact with them and talk to them. Lastly, apply for the Collab Lab if you haven't already. I'm not just saying this because it's sponsored by them, but it was the first experience where I really enjoyed working with people. I haven't had good experiences before Collab Lab and Pew Research Center. And it's amazing. I know people over there. Whenever I get stuck on any side project, I know I have people in the background who are willing to help me. And I think that is it. I don't know. I think I talked more than 10 minutes, so I apologize.
That's all right.
But,
that was amazing, Shajia. Thank you so much. But yeah, it's 23 after, so we're gonna keep it rolling. And next up is James. So let you introduce yourself. Take over the screen.
All right. Well, first, Shajia, that was awesome. I don't have anything nearly that prepared. I don't have so I'm kind of winging it here, but I do. I'm gonna hit my timer so I can keep an eye on that for you guys. I'm James. I live in Austin, Texas right now. I'll give you a quick rundown. My talk isn't about my non-traditional background, but I come from restaurant management. I've been coding for 2 to 3 years, depending on like how you define coding. But I went to a boot camp and graduated last March, and restaurant management was burning out my life, and I just didn't see myself in it. I needed to make a change, so I applied to a couple of different boot camps, but luckily my wife, who works for WeWork, who owned Flatiron at the time, got a friends and family discount. They had a couple courses that you could do for free, and as soon as I saw things that I was inputting in the CLI and stuff on the screen, I was like, whoa, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. So, and the kind of person that I am, I jump into things like head first, and I put myself all in. And I went to boot camp, and I struggled mightily. I don't have a technical background. It took me about 6 months in a 12-month program to really even feel like I knew what the hell I was looking at. And so I had to pull back a couple of cohorts, just to be able to feel like I caught up. But when I graduated, I was ready to take the world by storm. And I threw myself into, I probably shouldn't have done this, but I think I applied to probably like 300 positions in the first month. It was on LinkedIn, on everything you could think. If they had a React or JavaScript keyword, I was like, boom, 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 boom. And maybe that probably wasn't the best way to attack looking for a job. But and simultaneously at the same time, I'm anything that pops into my brain, I'm making an app for it. I've got, I made apps for my daughter to help her with math. I made apps to make me laugh with memes, whatever, anything. I'm just building this. And then around let's see, actually, I'll pull it up for you guys. Let me share my screen. Am I sharing? No. Okay. Share screen. Okay, so I graduated in March, a little bit before this, right around August. So what, 1, 2, 3, about 5 or 6 months in, it just hits me. I can't even look at code. I'm defeated. So I haven't even interviewed, not one bit of traction with the company or anywhere that I interviewed. Not even a single phone call or like, hey, we think you might be right for us. Nothing. And it was really disheartening. It was and I felt on my own. I'm doing this pretty much all on my own. I'm tweeting here and there. I've got a couple of acquaintances through my boot camp who are in various stages of their job hunt. Some successful, some still not. But nothing. I'm not really tied to anything other than just my own drive. And you can see here that I hit a 6-month wall. I can't even open an editor. I can't go on YouTube and watch a video. Code just, it depressed me. I hit burnout hard, and I fell into a deep depression. And right around the time of the new year, right around here, I started to make connections with some of my crew, and they're in here. They're in the Zoom with us. I invited them in, and some of these guys that I made early connection with, a guy named Charles and a guy named Julio, we really ignited my love for code again. And that's when I realized that I've got to get back into code, but I got to do it a much different way. I need to be more systematic with my time. Instead of coding 12 hours a day, I need to be able to set aside chunks of time to do what I need to do for my family, for myself, just for fun. I'm passionate about music and soccer. So I got back into playing soccer with friends, and I picked up the guitar again. And I had to find these things that help balance. I felt this pressure to work as hard as I can because I want to provide for my family. I was stay-at-home dad the entire time I was in boot camp. I wanted to feel like I'm doing something meaningful with my life. So I pushed myself to that limit, and I paid for it big time. I thought I was never going to code again. So when I got back into code, I started to focus a lot less on in an actual editor coding things, and started to put more systems into place to spend an hour looking up something I don't know, what am I curious about? What do I want to know? You know what I mean? I spend an hour doing that in the day. Then I spend an hour just kind of like looking over old code or whatever and saying, is there anything that I can improve? Have I improved in any way? Then I'll get on Slack or Twitter and I'll just shoot the shit with my friends and we'll talk about code. And these are deliberate systems I put in place to find that balance, to keep that passion alive, but not overwhelm me. And the main thing that I did, and I'm going to shout out my crew here, over my Slack. This is my the Code Share Grow group, and all these people are in here right now. And these people are the people that we are helping, I think, keep each other motivated, grounded, and having that sense of community is probably the most important thing about staying like on track. There's a lot of ways you can do it. Shajia mentioned that, you know, you don't have to be a super sociable person. I am to an extent, but I'm not. I like to have a small group around me. I'm not like the has 50,000 friends kind of person. But whatever that works for you, find something that you can find people that you can be real with, that you can be vulnerable with, that can push you to you know, staying positive, or, you know, like, hey, listen, man, you know, it's okay. You're allowed to feel this way. This is what and then we're sharing each other's experiences. And at the same time, find something that is outside of your life that is new to you or different. Like, for example, I'm not an outdoorsy person historically, but when we moved to Austin, everything's outdoorsy. I mean, like, it's crazy. And so I bought a paddle board, and you know, I don't know anything about paddleboarding, but I found something that just is nothing to do with coding and in that environment that I'm trying to immerse myself in, just to pull myself out of that. You know, I'm gonna go short so that we can kind of catch up, but I just wanted to like kind of speak to anybody, and this is something I'm very passionate about. If you follow me on Twitter, if you have written one line of code, hello world and HTML, you're a programmer. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not. You are a programmer at whatever level you're at. If you're in it, you're in it. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something. And when you're struggling, we've all been there. I've been there. Every single person in this Zoom has been there. And when they don't know something, and I want to speak to anybody who's just getting into tech right now to allow yourself to not know what the hell you're doing, and to be okay with not like it's very easy to look at this person here and this person here and see all the time they're putting in and think, wow, they're successful and I'm not. But they, you know, I believe that all of our experiences, while they are unique, are also universal. And maybe you're not going through what I'm going through at the same time, but we will. And it'll be special to you, but it'll have the same sort of kind of impact on your life. And so just remember that have that community will drive you and push you to stay grounded, but also at the same time, like, explore things you've never even thought of. And that's what really, for me, kind of like saved my, I guess, coding life, I guess you can call it, because I was dead in the water. And thanks to Julio, thanks Charles, thanks Sarah, thanks to everybody in this chat. Catherine, she's my new friend. She's awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I guess I will say to you guys, I appreciate you for having me.
That was awesome. That was amazing. So cool that you brought your crew with you, and they're all here supporting it. Like, chat's blowing up with all these supportive messages and stuff. That's so fun. Wow. I had no idea half that stuff, James. So it's great. Super cool. Eddie, you're here. It's good to see you.
Hey, how's it going? Sorry, I'm late.
Yeah, no problem at all. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, if you guys are ready
cool.
for me.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to you. Just, you know, feel free to introduce yourself and give us your talk.
All right, cool. Let me share my screen. Where are you, Zoom? All right. All right. So my talk tonight is on Cyprus. So it's getting started with Cyprus. I kept it very, very simple since it's a quick lightning talk, about 10 minutes. So we'll just go over, what Cypress is, end-to-end testing a bit. We'll go over like the structure of a Cypress test, and then we'll go over a demo, and then Q&A from there. So we'll start off. So my name is, let me present this. Why is it not? Give me 1 second. Let me move this down here. Okay, so about me, I'm from Miami, Florida. I'm the VP of, we'll just forget the rest of it. I'm basically a problem solver at a startup down here in Florida called Health Karma. I mentored at the Collab Lab a bit. I participated in cohort 13 and 16, and then usually on my spare time, I'm spending it with the family and kids, watching tons of movies. I love anime, I love sports. I'm a big football fanatic. And CSS, which is, I guess, not a weird hobby. I was just big into CSS art and animation. So that's really what got me into programming. So I'm always messing around with that. So we'll start off with what is end-to-end testing, and then end-to-end testing checks whether an application works as expected or not from beginning to end to ensure the application flow behaves as expected. Usually, and I'm gonna say from my experience, usually we run the end-to-end tests when we're pushing a new feature or making any updates, or even just on a regular day, we'll just like come in one early morning and we'll be like, hey, let's run an end-to-end test from start to beginning, make sure the system's working fine. Now, you could do that manually, which is okay. I hated doing it manually. So I always enjoyed doing it, using some type of testing library. And I did about 3 years of QA. So it was both manual and then automated. So there's testing tools. I mentioned Cypress, but there was also, I guess one of the most known tools out there is Selenium. The thing I hated with Selenium, using Selenium, was it was a steep learning curve. There was no reporting capabilities. You had to deal with web drivers for each browser. So there was one for Chrome, one for Firefox, Safari, Edge, Opera, and there was many more out there for like mobile devices. The one thing with that is anytime a browser would update, you would have to go back, try to find a new web driver for that browser. If it wasn't out yet, then you would have to, try to re-download that browser in whatever version it was. So if it was like Chrome, I don't know, 32, they updated it to 33. I happened to update my browser to 33. Then I would run my test. All my tests would fail because the web driver was only for 30, version 32 and below. So that was one of the things I hated about that. And then usually you pair it up with some type of other unit testing library. So we paired it up with PHP unit. So there was that learning curve as well on top of Selenium. The only good thing that I got out of it was I learned PHP, and that's what got me into working with PHP. So that's the one good thing I got from there. So enter Cypress. What is Cypress? Cypress is a JavaScript-based testing framework for front-end applications. So you could do end-to-end testing, you could do integration testing, and you could do unit testing. Currently, right now, where I work at, we're starting to implement Cypress. We just built up our QA team about a couple of months ago. the person I hired didn't have experience with JavaScript, so Cypress was the easiest to kind of introduce someone into. The learning curve is not as steep, and it's very like human readable as far as when you're looking at the code. So why Cypress? There's time travel, which is basically snapshots as you're running your test. You have automatic waiting. So usually with PHP, Unit, and Selenium, we would have to throw in kind of like sleep functions or wait functions to make sure in between the different tests to make sure you know, the page would load, because if it didn't load, the next function would get called and your test was breaking because the page didn't load. So with Cypress, you have that automatic waiting. Again, it takes screenshots and videos. It actually stores it for you. In your project, you could kind of mock networks or control it or stub it. There's real-time reload. So as you're updating your project, your test will kind of reload and run again. There's cross-browser testing. There's even Edge and for Electron as well. And like I said before, it's easy to pick up. So installing Cypress is pretty simple. You run your npm init and then install Cypress. Once you have it installed, you'll get this neat Cypress package. You'll have a couple of folders in there: fixtures, integration, plugins, screenshots, support, and videos. What we're going to focus on today, at least the first part, is just the integration, the screenshots, and then later on, we might go into support and fixtures. Okay. And once you download it, you'll also get a bunch of commands or scripts that come with it. So everything's already kind of pre-packaged for you. The ones we're going to focus on are the two at the bottom, which is sci-run and sci-open. And they might have updated this, so there might be more commands that already come pre-packaged in. But this is from the current project I have, which I haven't been really working on that much. That's why I decided to do this lightning talk, because I got to start helping out with QA with Cypress testing and make sure I understand what's going on there. And then the commands I said, we have sci-open, which basically opens up an application, a web-based application in your project for you to be able to run your projects or your tests and see the recordings as you go. Then you have sci-run, which is basically running the tests in your terminal. It'll kind of give you a report as you go, letting you know what tests are running, what tests are failing, and then print out kind of a nice report letting you know everything that happened. And then you also have the Cypress Dashboard, which is another option they have. You can kind of control your test from there, set it to run, and do a bunch of different things. Get your reporting, get your videos in case you have someone other than a QA engineer or a developer that kind of wants to take a look at this, probably a PM or something like that. So writing your tests in Cypress, as I mentioned earlier, is pretty simple and it's pretty human readable. So you'll just go into your project, you'll enter the Cypress directory, you'll go into the integration directory, and then from there, we kind of split it up because we have several projects. So here I did consumer and then loginspec.js. Once you have it in there, then you could kind of, you'll call this function describe, which is a Cypress method for combining, or that contains and combines one or more related tests. So each test should kind of be in this block of describe, and describe takes two arguments, which is a string usually describing the name of your test, and then a callback function that contains the actual test you're going to run. Then inside that block, you'll call an it function, and this contains the actual test block. So you can put all your commands or any functions you're going to run in there. And that takes 2 arguments. One, again, a string kind of describing the outcome of the test, and then the logic for your test. And then Cypress has a lot of like built-in commands or functions. So you have like site-visit, which goes to a URL, site-get, which kind of you pass either a selector, an ID selector, a class selector, a data attribute. You have like route to redirect, you have requests, you have clicks, event handlers or triggers. You could tell it to take screenshots. You could kind of do assertions with the sci.contains on the 3rd column, and that kind of, you're telling it to kind of make sure like the page contains whatever you're looking for. All right. And then this is kind of how your test should look. So again, you have describe up top, which is the container. You'll kind of tell it like, hey, the title of that, which is Health Karma user login. In this case, we're using the callback function. And then we have that it, which basically says this should allow the user to log in with valid credentials and be redirected to the homepage. Also, while you're writing your test, you should always remember, set up your application state, take an action, and then make an assertion about the resulting application state. So in this case, it would be, user logs in, user goes to the login page, enters in email and password, and then user is redirected to the home page. And then you can say, make sure the home page contains the word home in it or something like that. So this is exactly what I was talking about. You would tell it to go visit whatever page, and then you're calling your commands to enter in your email and password. As you see here, I'm using ID selectors, and then I'm telling it to type in the email and password, and then I'm submitting to the form, and then checking the path name, making sure it includes the / home in it. And then that test should pass if everything works. So I'm gonna try to do a live demo. Hopefully this doesn't go bad. So here's my test. I mentioned you have the integration file here, or folder, or directory. Then we kind of break it up into consumer here. Cypress automatically will give you some examples for you to go based off.
Hey, Eddie,
Yeah.
We're still seeing demo time slide. At least I am.
Oh, sorry. Let me try to stop and share, and let me try to share again. All right. Did you see that?
Yeah, now I can see your editor. Yep.
Perfect. Sorry.
All good.
So this is a Cypress directory. And also we use it as a standalone project. So, we'll upload it to a server and kind of point it to the live site or our live testing site, pre-production site. But you could also include it in the project. So you could do it either way. So you have this integration file here. We break it up into kind of like different projects. So we have the consumer end, and then in the consumer end, we have our login spec. So we'll just go ahead and run this file. And then Cypress is going to start running. We'll give it a few seconds here. So let's see. So as it's going, you'll kind of notice like it's going through describe kind of, that's the test is running, the login, and then it's telling you what it's looking for what needs to be done or what we're trying to assert here. And then that test passed, nothing big there. Also, this is everything else with the example file. It's gonna run everything, so it's running those tests. We have 14 that passed. It lets you know how long you got it, if there was a video recorded, the total test, the passing, if there was any failing, if there's any, pending, skipped, or if there's a screenshot, and then true for the videos here. And then, where's this report at? Still going. And then now we're uploading the results.
I'm not trying to cut you off, just giving you a time check that there's 10 minutes left till the top of the hour. 2 more presentations to get through.
All right. Let's run. So while this is running, I'll go ahead and show you. So right here, it kind of made a video of everything that's happening, and it's an MP4. So if I click on it, I don't know if it's not gonna play. We can see it through the dashboard. But I'll return to that now. Can you see my screen still?
Yep, still seeing the tests running. Yep. Okay, so I'm back here. Can you guys see my screen now? Yep.
All
Seeing
right.
demo time.
So
yep. Oh, there's seeing Cyprus.
All right, so now you see the Cypress dashboard, and you'll kind of see here, like these tests are running right now. But if we go in there, they're still running. You can kind of see a video. So if these tests kind of fail, we could kind of get screenshots where they failed at, or we could play a video and it'll kind of show us like where it's failing at, and give us a stack trace. And then let me kill this. If we also run the sciopen command, this will kind of open up that web-based Electron app. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
All right, so you could come here and you could basically run whatever test you want, and it'll do it for you. You'll kind of see it as it goes through the website or the application and runs all the tests. So it's going to log me in, and then it'll kind of push me to the site. All right. So that's pretty basic, and we're all developers. Usually the code we write on Monday, probably by Friday, we think it's horrible. So as you go, you'll probably learn new stuff, new practices, and there's certain stuff you could do as far as best practices for working with Cypress. So there's a couple of things you could do. I created before and after functions, which basically says, okay, before every setup, let's make sure we pull in whatever data we need to. We could set a viewport. We could tell it to go to whatever site. And then at the end, we're going to log out after we run the test. You can set up fixtures, which fixtures are basically the data you kind of want to load in your project. So here I did profile. and I gave it email. We could give it an email, and then we could give it the password. And that's the fixture is going to pull the data. It's kind of similar to like importing a file. So we'll tell it to pull profiles from fixtures, and then the alias is going to be profile. You could run certain commands, or you could build your own commands. So here, I kind of ran, created a login, logout function. So every time after we try a login, we'll just go ahead and log out from the test.
Hey, Eddie, we are running really short on time. So
yeah.
If you want to kind of wrap it
yeah.
up.
And that's pretty much it.
Okay, cool.
You kind of, yeah. Once you run this fixture, you could call that this.profile email, and do whatever you need to that way. Set it up in a .env file. You can set the base URL depending on the environment you're on. This one's staging. We have one on production. But that's basically it. And this is a test that just ran the auto reload. It's running, and then it'll kind of log the user out at the end. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I think we'll keep questions to the end, but yeah, I only saw that visual, like the SciOpen thing the other day when Stacie demoed it for our team at work, and it's fantastic. It's like how testing should always have been done, like it's so much simpler than Selenium, and it's so visual. So thanks for showing us that.
No problem.
Amazing.
And if Stacie or anybody, we're still learning it as well. So if you want to give me any feedback, more than welcome.
Cool. All right. Next up, we have Liz, who's going to give us our first ever Tech Talk in Spanish. So excited. I don't know what the live captioning is going to do, but we'll find out. But Liz, I'll let you introduce yourself and give your talk.
Technically second, because Liz gave one in Spanish last time too.
Oh, she did? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Our second. She's done both of our Spanish language talks. That's good.
This is amazing.
Gracias. I don't remember who helped me with translation just now. I want to say thank you. I ask for help me again. No está. No está, ok. Bien. Voy a compartirles mi pantalla. Bueno, mi nombre es Lisette Bañol, Liz Bañol. Yo estudié psicología y trabajo como desarrolladora con una empresa que enseña a niños y a niñas sobre temas de tecnología y robótica. Yo estoy en Cali, Colombia. Vamos a hablar un poquito sobre comunicación asertiva en equipos de trabajo. Les voy a dar una de las tantas herramientas que existen dentro de este complejo universo de la comunicación, que es un poco complicado. Bueno, ¿qué es la comunicación asertiva? Según la universidad... Ay, denme un momento. Yo les estaba compartiendo pantalla, ¿verdad? Sí. Ok, ya. ¿Ahí estamos bien? Sí. Bueno, según la Universidad de Warwick, se comunica uno de manera asertiva cuando dices lo que quieres decir y te sientes bien diciéndolo, además de que respetas la individualidad de cada persona. ¿sí? Pero, ¿qué quiere decir esto? Es muy linda la definición, pero al momento de comunicarnos dentro de los equipos de trabajo, resulta un poco difícil, ¿sí? Entonces, nosotros tenemos que ser conscientes de que existe una diversidad dentro de los equipos de trabajo, ¿sí? Cada persona tiene una forma de ver el mundo diferente. Y gracias a eso, yo les traigo este ejemplo, y es que cada persona ve la vida con un color de lentes diferentes. Es como si cada uno tuviera unos lentes, unas gafas, y si las gafas son azules, yo voy a ver azul, y si los lentes son rojos, pues voy a ver rojo, ¿sí? ¿Cómo se representa esto? Hay algo que se llama el enneagrama de la personalidad. Habla acerca de 9 modelos mentales que tenemos nosotros como individuos. Esto es de la cultura oriental. Habla acerca de 9 composiciones o 9 esqueletos psicológicos que cada persona tiene. Y a partir de ese modelo mental se comunica con los demás. Entonces, vamos a ver un poquito cómo son esos modelos mentales para poder entenderlos y poder como ponernos en situación, reconocernos también a nosotros como parte de este modelo, ¿vale? Entonces, aquí puse como supongamos que estamos en una cena, todos estamos muy tranquilos, y de repente llegan 2 personas que han estado tomando. Cada persona frente a esa misma situación puede tener diversas reacciones. Entonces, puede pasar que una de las personas se levante y trate de quitarlos, o de pronto que llegue otra persona y se asuste y crea que estas personas le van a hacer daño. Otro de pronto tratando de defender a alguno de los que está en la mesa va a reaccionar de pronto de mala forma, ¿sí? Todos ante una misma situación que sería, vamos a ver, que serían estos, todos van a reaccionar de formas diferentes, cada uno debido a su modelo de pensamiento, ¿vale? Entonces, ¿cuáles son los 9 tipos de personalidades? Tenemos la primera persona, pues el primer arquetipo, es el perfeccionista. Generalmente, ya hablando en nuestro entorno de tecnología y desarrollo, generalmente son las personas que quieren que todo esté perfecto, que todo tiene que ser como ellos dicen que es, que su código sea el mejor, y siempre van a querer decirle a los demás cómo tienen que hacer las cosas, porque para ellos solamente existe una sola forma de hacer las cosas, ¿sí? Generalmente son buenos líderes y son muy buenos oradores. Entonces, tenemos como ese modelo mental. Tenemos también las personas que les gusta ayudar, que de pronto terminan su trabajo y si otra le dice, hey, tengo esto pendiente, o que tienes pendiente, yo te ayudo, y siempre están de pronto un poco más colapsados que todos porque siempre quieren ayudarlos a todos a hacer sus cosas. Está también el ganador, que es el 3, el winner, the winner. Y son las personas que generalmente quieren ser muy exitosas y entonces siempre están mostrando el trabajo que han hecho y quieren ser reconocidos en todo momento. Está también el 5. El 5 son las personas que tratan de son muy sensibles generalmente a la hora de comunicarse y de pronto no son tan resistentes a las críticas, ¿sí? El 5, que son los pensadores, generalmente son personas que no se comunican con nadie, son muy callados, muy reservados, y siempre están solos aprendiendo algo. El 6 generalmente tienen problemas para decidirse y siempre esperan que los demás decidan por ellos. El 7, que es el entusiasta, son esas personas que siempre quieren estar rodeadas de otras, que son las que proponen las actividades de pronto de grupo o lo que sea, pues que implique tener muchas personas a su lado. El 8 son las personas que generalmente son jefes o quieren siempre defender a otros. Entonces, generalmente están en cargos muy arriba porque no les gusta que los demás le digan lo que tienen que hacer. ¿Vale? Los 9 son los conciliadores, generalmente son personas que son muy calladas, muy reservadas, pero siempre están analizando todo lo que tienen a su alrededor. ¿Sí? Entonces, ¿cómo es en el trabajo cada eneatipo, cada persona? Entonces, primero tenemos que ser conscientes de que como todos tenemos una estructura mental diferente, todos vamos a comunicarnos de forma diferente, ¿sí? Y tenemos que aprender a respetar ese tipo de individualidad y no tomárnoslo personal, ¿vale? Entonces, por ejemplo, si yo estoy haciendo un despliegue o si estoy de pronto organizando un código de algún compañero, ¿cómo puedo yo comunicarme con mi compañero para decirle de pronto que el código no está tan bien o que esa solución que propuso no es la más adecuada? Porque dependiendo del tipo de personalidad que tenga este otro sujeto, va de pronto a responder de buena o de mala manera, ¿sí? Porque eso varía, puede variar. Entonces, ¿cómo yo puedo tener tacto? ¿Cómo puedo ser cuidadosa al momento de expresarme con esas personas? Entonces, lo primero que tengo que hacer es entender cómo soy yo, cómo me expreso yo, cuál es la visión que tengo del mundo y luego intentar entender la visión de los demás, ¿sí? Es como la invitación para que siempre estemos atentos de que no existe un solo tipo de personalidad, porque no somos únicos y no todos se parecen a nosotros. Parece obvio, pero a veces no lo es, porque a veces creemos que las otras personas hacen cosas para incomodarnos y realmente es que simplemente son ellos, están siendo ellos y tienen su propia personalidad, ¿sí? Entonces, las conclusiones para terminar. Antes de intentar o tratar de comprender a los demás, primero debo comprenderme yo. ¿Quién soy yo? ¿Cómo es mi estructura mental? Dependiendo de mi estructura mental y lo que yo tengo en mi cabeza, asimismo voy a poder expresarme de mejor forma y voy a poder entender que el otro es diferente, ¿sí? Comunicarnos siempre de forma empática, no como quisiéramos que se comunicaran con nosotros, sino como mirando, observando cómo es la otra persona y tratando de acercarme respetando su individualidad, respetando su personalidad. Y la última es no tomarnos las cosas como personal. Por ejemplo, es que él, no sé, me gritó o me borró mi código o sí, como quitar eso porque generalmente es una situación que nosotros estamos interpretando de la manera en que nosotros queremos, ¿sí? O sea, las situaciones siempre son, debemos de tratar de mirarlos como cosas ajenas, ¿sí? No tomarnos nada como personal, sino como decir, ok, esta persona hace este tipo de cosas, no es por mí, sino que es porque él es así, ¿sí? Tratar de comprender simplemente eso. Y ya, preguntas. Listo.
Nice job, Liz. We'll do questions again at the end. We have one more talk and we're running a little over, so I'm just gonna turn it over to Stacie, but thank you so much. That was really great.
Yes, if you have to dip for whatever reason, this will be recorded and put on our website for you to watch later. But I will share my screen. Oh, once Liz is done, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me move Zoom over. Thanks y'all for sticking around. And let me get this all pulled up for us. Present. Okay. Present. You can do this, computer. All right. Share my screen. Hi. Again, I am Stacie. Let me shrink y'all down so I can see a little better. Thanks for sticking around for these lightning talks. I will give mine now. It's called Wanna Level Up? Stop Starting Random Tutorials. And I'm here to hopefully help you find a more meaningful way to approach learning that'll help you level up technically and also become a more valuable asset to your team. Also, I apologize for kid noise. Okay, let's dig in. Time is limited. I know for me, I have a lot on my plate. I know you're all really busy too, and we all have unique schedules. I'm a single mom of 2. I work a full-time job. I'm the co-founder of Collab Lab. There's a lot I need to do. So I don't have much time to just spend learning and taking tutorials and putzing around trying to solidify these big ideas in my head. So when you first become a developer on a team, you're usually super eager to become a super dev and learn all these big, intricate, super technical things. Like for me, I wanted to learn all about performance. I thought performance is super valuable. I want to be able to build the most performant web apps. And I didn't really have any context to apply it to. So it was kind of a waste of my time learning it. I also wanted to learn how to make the most beautiful animations on the web. But again, I wasn't doing it in my day job. So the knowledge just kind of slipped away from me. And I also wanted to learn how browsers work, which is a huge topic and is super intense. So that was kind of a no-go for me. I tried learning, I didn't have anything context to apply it to. Turned out to be sort of a waste of my time. If you want to learn all those things, please do. That would be so great for you. If you have the time and want to, you'll be a super dev, you'll surpass us all, and then we can ask you for help. So go do that if you have time. But when it comes down to it, we have 24 hours in a day. And I think at the end of the day, we all just want to level up. So how can we do that? How can we use our time really efficiently to level up? So you have these big ideas about these big topics that you want to learn, and you usually are like, great, I'm going to get a book. I'm going to start a tutorial. I'm going to buy a book. I'm going to look at some PDFs, whatever it might be. And you get into the book and the preface says something like this. Most of the chapters will take 4 to 6 hours to read for someone with a few years programming experience. And you're like, that's not me. And if you keep reading, you'll see the more difficult ones might take twice as long. And so you think, okay, fine. I could probably commit to 1 chapter a week. That seems like a good goal, right? Until you start doing the math and you're like, okay, 4 to 6 hours per chapter, but let's multiply that by 2 because I don't have the experience. And then some of them are going to be multiplied by 4 because they'll be harder. And now you're like, I've got to find 15 hours in my week somewhere to learn about browsers. And all of a sudden your big ideas about learning start to fall apart because that is not a good use of your time and you're not going to be able to do it. And then you're going to be sad if you don't follow through on your commitment and it's just going to be gross. So don't do it. So because it's a lightning talk, I'll give you 1 do and 1 don't. And like it says here, you're grown, you know your schedule and what you're capable of. So choose your own adventure. But for me, this was my takeaway. The don't, stop the tutorial shuffle. It's not a judgment on you. I have the same graveyard of tutorials on my machine, I promise you. But when it comes to tutorials, I found 2 things were wrong for me. 1, I would pick some random tutorial off Udemy, right? React, GraphQL, whatever it might be. And it would just scratch the surface of it. And I'd never finish it. I'd only ever get halfway through it. And so I never really got that deep into it. And I would just kind of like, and I didn't have anything to apply it to, like contextually in my day-to-day. So that, again, the knowledge just slipped away. The second thing is kind of the opposite. Sometimes they were really, really hard and I didn't have anybody to turn to ask questions besides Stack Overflow, but we all know how welcoming it can be over there. So I got left feeling defeated and sad. Again, don't put yourself through that. Why would you? So the don't is tutorials. The do is learning what's right in front of you. So dig in deeper to the projects you're given at work. This is such a beautiful way to really find focus and direction when you're trying to learn things. Not only is it something that you have context around because it's in a familiar environment, but you have a whole team of people that you work with that you can ask questions to, which leads me to this last point here. Always be pairing. You have this wealth of knowledge on your team that you should be tapping into. See what other developers on your team know and can teach you. Ask them questions about this thing that you're trying to learn. It's free education, and who doesn't want that? And also, it gives you the opportunity to speak about the things you're learning to real people who can help you and correct you and give you advice. And that is such a beautiful way to solidify your understanding. So do learn from the issues you're working on. Or if you're not a dev right now, learn from things that you want to build, like actual real life challenges that you want to solve. So why learn on the job? Why will this help you level up as a developer technically and make you more valuable to your company? If you want to level up, learning on the job will help you know your product and the technologies your team uses really well. And this is a beautiful way to get seen and level up. So spending your time learning the tools that you're working on every day. 1 second. Benny, let her have a turn with the box, please. Okay. Anyway, learn the tools that you're working on every day because that repetition is going to be really important for solidifying your understanding. This is like mom life. And also, this kind of thing is going to impact your immediate career goals. Mila, I need you to stop right now. Thank you. Y'all. Okay. So level up that way. If you want to level up, learning on the job will help you aid in planning product development and timelines. So giving that one issue that you're working on your full attention is going to help you better aid in these conversations. You're going to know what this code does. So when somebody proposes another new feature, you'll know what kinds of other things in your project it's going to affect, and you're going to be able to help better project how long things will take or what snags you might hit along the way. And that, again, is a beautiful way to level up in your developer journey. What else will it do? Learning on the job will help you become the go-to person. And this is my favorite way to level up because it puts you in a beautiful position to mentor new people who come and want to learn the things that you know. It will help you speak more eloquently to stakeholders and users about the things that you've built. And it'll help, he's walking around with a bag on his foot. And it'll help you help other people in your company if they want to solve similar problems. And trust me, this exposure is one of the best ways to level up in your career. So all this to say, if you want to level up, stop starting random tutorials and start focusing your learning on what is right in front of you with the people who are right beside you. That's it. That's my advice, friends. And some of my kids' advice too. Sharing is caring. It's not a Collab Lab event if my kids don't come and like cause a ruckus.
Right. It's perfect. And I feel like this pairing thing, like you were doing that before you were even an engineer, right? Like you were in support and you were already finding engineers to pair with on things to try and like get ready. So
totally. People love to help people, and like if you can find your community that way, you can level up so well. You can find people to mentor you. You can find people to sponsor you, and you can essentially get into those positions you want to be in. You can get seen, and you have people supporting you the whole way. So build your community.
Excellent. That was so amazing. All great talks. Oh, Eddie, he's got a cutie on his lap. So we are kind of over time. So if anybody needs to drop, feel free to do that. But also if you have questions for any of the speakers, now would be the time to ask them. I didn't see any serious questions in the chat, but or you can also kind of join me in just kind of thanking all of the speakers for their time and for sharing their experiences with us. But
yeah,
anybody
I'd like
have
to
any
say
questions?
too,
Yeah.
If you do come up with questions, if you don't have any right now, but you think of them as you're showering or when you wake up in the morning, tweet at any of us, tweet at Collab Lab, pop over onto the Meetup page and ask questions. We're more than happy to find your questions and answer them.
There's a question in the chat, I think for you, Stacie. Any ideas for how to select tutorials when you're not working?
That's a good question that I don't know the answer to because I never had success finding tutorials. One thing that I did find helpful was at your job, somebody else mentioned this in their talk, if you can find something to automate, not only does that help you dig in and learn something again in the space that you understand, but can also act as a really powerful tool in your portfolio. So for me, I worked for a company where we had to manually add people like clients to our CRM. And I thought, that's silly. Why are we doing this every time? And so I just built like a command line script that would take in information and add them to our CRM with all the bells and whistles that they needed. And it helped me solidify my understanding of coding in a space that I knew. I knew how the clients got there. I understood like how the API was connecting things because I already had some of the knowledge about where things needed to go. And then it also helped me get a job at Zapier because they automate. And I was like, look at this thing that I already automated. So learn how to kind of like find something in your day-to-day that, again, somebody said in their presentation that you're doing over and over again that could be automated, or find an API of a tool that you really like and just figure out how to send things to it or get things from it. And that's a way that you can apply like real life knowledge to something and you'll remember it because it's more than just following somebody's instructions. It's something that you understand on a deeper level.
Another question for for Stacie is what kinds of questions did you ask engineers when you were in support?
That is a great question. Hey, if you go outside, stay in the fence, please. So what I did when I was in support is, again, I found real life things that I wanted to fix. So building tools for support, pairing with them on whatever they were working on. That's a really great place to start if you don't know what you can build or where you can contribute. Just reach out to a couple engineers and tell them about your journey, tell them what your goals are, and ask them if you can ever ride along with something they're working on. And usually they're more than happy to be like, yeah, join me and I'll pair program with you. And it's a really powerful tool for them to have to articulate things. But it gives you a good look at like what you might be doing if you did get into that engineering seat, and gives you, an opportunity to ask questions and build a connection there.
Cool. Elise, there's a question for you in the chat. ¿Cómo se incorpora la robótica en su compañía?
Ahí dejé un link para que lo puedan ver.
Cool. Anything else? Any other questions that people have? Again, thank you so much to all of our speakers. Thank you everyone for attending.
Everyone.
We do these every 2 weeks, so if it's your first time, watch the meetup, meetup.com for the next one. Thanks everybody, have a good night.
Thanks everyone, see you around. Bye.